let's use a little bit of the blue and a tiny dab of the titanium white. Let me see. So we're going to just do a sky here. Add a little bit more of that white. Okay. Now, usually acrylics, they dry super fast, but I do have my trusty little fan. It came with my lawnmower that one of my daughters bought for me, but I use it to dry my painting super fast. So, 1 second. Let me put this little bad boy over here. And it does a really good job of doing that. Okay. Let's give it a couple of seconds. There we go. I just like to do that for the first coat. Okay. Now I just take some of this excess water off of here. And then I'm going to do a second coat for the blue. So that means a little more of this blue at the top. And I'm going to add a little bit of the titanium white. And just gently blend it. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know what happened to my hooker's green. I've got to try and find it. Sometimes my dog takes my paint and hides it. He won't eat it. He won't do anything like that. But he just does it just to try and get my attention. Okay. There we go. Set that dry a little bit. You don't have to put it under the fan. And then I'm going to get my smaller paintbrush. Now this one is the 1/4 inch, and it's also a wash brush, but as you can see, it's super old. So we're going to get this, and we are going to dip it in the sap green. I like this green because it's really perfect for doing landscapes, fields, and stuff like that. It's lighter than the hooker's green. And I'm just going to add in a little bit of the cadmium yellow. Blend a little bit of it together. Yeah, I need a little bit more of that sap green. There we go. Now, you know me, I always use a couple of, I usually do 2 or 3 layers, just so that the colors are really thick and vibrant. I'm going to add a little bit of this titanium white because that can thicken up the paint as well. That's what I like about it. Right, that's the first layer. Yeah, I definitely need to do another layer here. Okay. I'm going to pop it under the fan real quick, just to speed up that drying process. These are so handy, I tell you. Okay. All right, there we go. Okie dokie. Right, let me get a little bit more of the green. I may have to do 3 layers on this grass because you see how it's showing through like that. It's probably because it's a new yellow. That's probably why. Okay. Mix a little bit more of the green and the yellow. Now we could do the clouds right now, but let's see, shall I do some clouds? I think we're just going to go ahead and do some foliage. And for that, we're going to need an old size 0 round paintbrush. Now, it used to look like, let me see if I have one that was, this is what this used to look like this. And then when it gets really old, I just trim off the bristles and I use it for clouds. I use it for foliage, anything with a texture. That's what I use these old brushes for. Okay, so we're going to do the foliage. I'm not going to do the clouds right now today. So let's just do a little bit of the processed black, a little bit of the sap green. Now, usually I'll use hooker's green or a darker green, but I can't find my hooker's green. So we're going to just make do with this, and I'm sure it'll work just as well. All right. So get a little bit of that on there. Okay. And like I say, you don't really have to worry about getting it on the grass, because usually I will do a third coat and it kind of covers up any, well, I don't like to say mistakes, but if you tend to paint over the edge and you want to cover it, you can just go ahead and do that. With acrylics, they're really easy for covering mistakes. So I try not to add too much water. Oops, looks like I'm going to be doing clouds because look what I just did. That's okay. So yeah, I do not add any water to my, when I do the foliage, because I like to create texture and I like the dry look that you get when you paint with just the paint and the dry paintbrush. Let's have a look. Okay. And you can just continue to take off any excess paint with your paint rag. Okay, rinse my brush off, and I'm going to add a teeny bit of the green, same green, sap green, and the yellow. Oops, I might need a tiny bit of white to make it stand out a bit better. Let's see. Let's see what adding white does. Okay, yes, it does make it a little bit brighter. And just take it along. A little bit of that white with the yellow to highlight some of the areas of the foliage. I'd usually spend a little bit more time doing this, but for today, I'm just going to go ahead and there we go. Just show a very simple landscape. Very simple. I'm still trying to work on getting that live to work, guys. This is literally a test. I don't know if there's anybody on here or not, but yeah, I keep having problems with it. Okay, there we go. Foliage is done. You see? Now, when it gets to like autumn, another color I like to add is this here. This is, oh gosh, what is this called? Raw sienna. Oh, I've used it so much that it's rubbed off. but this is raw sienna. And this is really good if you're doing a autumn landscape. So we're not going to do an autumn landscape today, but just a heads up, it really is, that's a nice color. It makes it's a nice contrast against the greens. Okay, so now I've got to go over this again because you see that there's some marks here and stuff like that. So I need to dry off my, oh, I'm going to use, should I use the bigger brush? I think I'm going to try that first. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to dry that off a little bit. I don't want a lot of water on it. And I'm going to get a little bit of the sap green. And I'm going to dip it into the cadmium yellow again. Let's see if I can even out this this grass. Let's do that real quick. Yeah, the bigger brush is better right now. A little bit more of the yellow. And we need a little tiny bit of that white. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. Maybe. Let's see. Okay, a bit more of that yellow and a little bit more of the white. Yeah, let's do that. Oops, I got a little bit too much. Hold on, let's see. Okay, see how that works out. Perfect. Okay, let's wait for that to dry for a second. We might need the dryer. Hold on, let's pop him underneath the dryer real quick. Give it a couple of seconds. And shouldn't take too long. Okay. There we go. So now I'm going to do my foliage down here. We're not going to do any of the, what do you call it? In one of my other paintings, I did like hills and stuff like that. I'm just doing a simple little landscape with some foliage, with some flowers, just basic and simple. I'm not going to do too much detail. Right, so now I have another size 0 brush where I've trimmed the bristles off. See, there's a little bit of, they're all uneven. They're all uneven. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some more of that sap green. And I'm going to get some processed black, mix them together. And you can see there's not much water on here. I want it kind of dry. And then we're going to do our foliage right at the bottom here. Do a little bit of foliage. And we're going to do our flowers. Very simple, very quick. And then as we practice a little bit more, you can do things like flower arches, like you can do the trees coming out, you can do the clouds in the background here, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. You can paint it like whimsical and stuff like that. Have different color flowers. You could have little cottages, all kinds of stuff. That's what I like to do. I like to just let my imagination run wild. But you can also just get pictures and paint from pictures as well. You can do that. Okay, let's take this foliage all the way to the other side. I can't believe my dog's so quiet. I really can't. He's just laying next to me. He loves to lay next to me when I paint. He loves it. So I have to make sure I wear him out before I paint, because otherwise he won't leave me alone. He will try and steal my paint. He will take my rags. Yeah, he's a black lab, and he needs a lot of exercise, which is good because we like being outside. We both do, so that's good. Okay, right, now I'm going to take a little bit of the cadmium yellow, just so that we've got some variation in color down here. Although we're going to kind of cover it up with little flowers, but that's okay. Let's just play with it a little bit. And that was him groaning. Oh, goodness. Okay. There we go. We've got a little bit more. Now, another thing that I do, hold on. This is, oh, wait. Now, let me find my right brush. This is a liner brush. So, I get the liner brushes. And I also trim away some of the bristles. So I have a thinner tip, you see? That's what I usually do. Now I've got a couple of these, so I'm going to see which one is it I want to use for today. Hold on a second. Let's have a look. See, that's a longer liner one. I think I'm going to use this one. But you can see how the bristles are. Now, the only reason why I trim them away is because I do a lot of miniature art. I don't do a lot of big sizes now. It's mostly miniature. So this is perfect for me to paint these tiny little canvases. Now that's not the smallest I do. The smallest I do is like this size. I don't know if anybody can see because it's not telling me on here, but there we go. All right. So let's go ahead and do the flowers. I think we're going to go with the flowers. Let's do that. Okay. So to start our little flowers, I'm just going to do some little tiny little dots, yellow dots, all over the foliage. Like this. Now we're going to do little daisies because I think that's the most simple. So let's do that. Little yellow dots all over. Very simple, very quick. And let that dry for a little while. I'm going to rinse off my brush real good, because then we're going to go in with the cadmium yellow. And like I say, ordinarily, I would wait a little bit longer between painting these, or I would work on a couple of paintings at the same time. So while I'm waiting for one to dry, then I will work on another painting. Let's see. So that I'm not wasting time. Okay, let's see. So once you've done your yellow, we're going to go around the outside of the daisies, just very roughly. It hasn't got to be perfect. It's all about having fun. So let's see. Let's dry off this brush and dip it in the titanium white. And you're doing like little dots around the yellow. Around each one. Now, when I do the more detailed ones, I do them, like I'll paint them intricately, like tiny little leaves. But for today, this is just perfectly fine. Just to go around the edge, real simple, real quick. And then you can either just have daisy flowers, or you could add some other flowers, different colors in between the daisies. I like a pop of blue or a pop of red in between. So we'll see. We're going to play it by ear and see what we're going to add today. See what it looks like. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have to put some clouds in because I made this mess up here. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to have to do. We'll see. It's so hot in Florida right now. They say it's like 108 heat index. So even though the aircon and everything is on, it's still hot and uncomfortable. Okay, let's work our way all the way to the other side. Yeah, I need some clouds. Oh, but you know what? Let's do some more flowers first. What shall we do? I'm thinking, maybe some red. That will really pop against the green. Yeah, let's do some red. Okay. Let me find some cadmium red. Yes, let's use that one. Hopefully I have some left in here. A little bit of that on. There we go. Let's see. Right, let's get the same brush, rinse it off real good. Okay. Add a little bit in there. And literally, I'm not even going to any detail. I'm just putting tiny little dots of different sizes in between the daisy flowers. And look, see how it pops against the green. Let's see. I'm going to take it all the way along to the other side. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to have to do, let's see. Let me find my size 0 brush. Let's use maybe this one. Okay, let's use that one. We're going to do some clouds at the top here. You don't have to do any clouds. Sometimes you can just leave it plain, just play around with it. But because I went and put my finger on some dark paint and then I put it on here, I'm just going to go ahead and cover it with some white clouds. So that means a tiny bit of the titanium white. Sometimes I add blue, sometimes I add yellow because it makes the clouds pop. So we're just going to try and play with it. But again, you don't have to put clouds in. You don't have to. When I do clouds, I always use a dry brush. So a little bit of paint and a reasonably dry brush, like a damp brush, I would say, because it's still it's a little bit damp. So yeah, I have a couple of little mistakes on here. Well, like I say, I don't like to say mistakes because I feel like everything just you're learning, right? So it's not a mistake. I feel like it's meant to be. Now, of course, if you want to go and do more detail on the clouds, you can take that liner brush. Where is my liner brush? Somewhere over here. And you can just kind of add a little bit of fine detail to define the clouds more. You know, you can always do that. But we won't do that today. We'll just do a couple of little simple clouds. Oh, he's growling again. He's not growling, he's grumbling. That's what he's doing. He's grumbling. So yeah, you can do as many or as little as you want to. Let's have a look. 1 second. Just wash my brush real quick. Okay, let's have a look. Now, another thing I like to do, you can also do, if you want to, little trees, like the little Italian cypress trees. You could do those back there to create some depth. You could also do maybe a little cottage or a little red barn, something right here. Something like that. You could do that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this little simple piece. Maybe we'll do a barn. Okay, let's do that. Let's wing it, because I didn't plan anything out today. Okay. So this is using the same red that we used for the flowers. Now see how it pops against the green? I love that. So let's see, should we make a cottage or a barn? Let's do a barn. Just a little barn in the background. And that's the roof of the barn. Take a little bit off the black. I'm just going to edge on the roof, right here. Okay, I'm not going to do a chimney because I think it's just a barn. I don't think I'm going to do a cottage. Right, I'm trying to wait for that to dry. Let's put it under the dryer real quick. Okay, looks pretty good. All right, let me wash my liner brush. And let's get some white. And we're going to do, oops, hold on 1 second. Excuse me. We're going to do like that little, let's see, how do we do it? The little white edging that you put on the barns. Let's see if we can do that. go. I'm wondering whether to add some trees. All right, let me add some trees. Sometimes I overwork things. I really do. But I'm just trying to play with this. It's supposed to be a little simple landscape. However, I feel like we could do with a couple of little cypress trees in here. So let's have a look. Wash this brush a little bit. There we go. Now, if we want to add a little more detail, we could always add a little bit of the cadmium yellow. We could do that. Okay, this was supposed to be, right, this is simple. Okay, I'm going to leave it alone. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. And that's my simple landscape painting. Simple little landscape painting. I can't tell if anybody's online or not. Let me have a little look-see. I don't know if it will show me without cutting it off. I don't know. I can't tell. But anyway, thank you for painting with me if you are here. And I will try and go live more often. This is just a test because I need to see if my sound is working. And yeah, so that's about it. I'm going to enjoy my Sunday with my lab. I enjoyed your company if y'all were here. So have a great day. Until next time.